The 112th edition of the Roy's Boys podcast starts right now.
Carolina basketball family is the strongest there's ever been, there ever will be.
Nate Humphrey hands King Rice the ball. Pushes into Hubert Davis. 8 seconds. Davis trying to get free. Over to Fox. Fox, baseline. Up for the shot. Good! Off the glass! Oklahoma calls timeout, but the game is over! The game is over! Carolina has upset number 1 Oklahoma! And ready on his second attempt. That one is no good! They battle for it. Loose ball. Recovered Marvin. He scores!
With 20 seconds left to play, goes back to Michael Jordan. Jumper from out on the left. Good! 63, 62, 13, 12, 11. Georgetown with one timeout. Fred Brown looking. Oh, way to Worthy. Worthy 5. The Tar Heels are going to win the national championship.
Carolina with foul. He takes the timeout. They're out of timeout. Technical foul. Technical foul. Brown gets it into Williams. Here comes Williams front court. Williams on the drive. Gets it back out to Head. Long outside shot. Short rebounded. May. It's over. Carolina has won the national championship. And how about them Tar Heels? They are the national champions.
The Tar Heels are the national daggum champions.
You competed. And that's what it takes to win big-time games. You've got to compete. You do it with your brain, and you got to do it with your heart, too. And that's pretty doggone good.
From QCBroadcasting.com, this is the Roy's Boys podcast with your host, Josh Marlowe. Hey everybody, welcome you into another edition of the Roy's Boys podcast. We are powered by Carolina Electrical Services. A couple things before we get started. Do want to apologize for the delay in getting the Duke recap podcast up for you guys. Me and the co-host, we were out of town on a business trip.
I can't even get referenced by name, man. That's trash. That hurts. That hurts.
Wow. That had us tied up late into the night on Saturday night, made our way back home last night, so we're just now sitting down to talk about the game. And the second thing, it's in regards to our trip, me and Anthony, we were doing a live stream of a fight. Just want to say a good job to Anthony. Did a really good job doing the play-by-play as he got to call some exciting moments in the from the action in the ring. Even heard his famous little 1-2-1-2 bring out the smelling salt. So y'all go back. It's on our Facebook page. Just look for Pain Boxing, and it's pinned to the top. You go back and watch some of the action.
Man, they're getting a free plug out of this.
Yeah, look at this.
Wow.
So just so you know, it was a lot of fun.
I appreciate it, man. You
Our
did.
first job in the field together.
You were all right.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. No, you were spectacular.
We had
you
to go
gave us
back.
exactly
I
what
was
we
up
needed.
all night reviewing the film, trying to see where I can get better.
Here we go.
In all three areas of the game.
Here we go.
But it was a lot of fun. It kind of took away a little bit from missing.
Yeah, it took a little bit of the sting out of there.
The outcome from Carolina and Duke, and look, we'll go ahead and jump right into the Duke game. First reaction from all of this. This game proves why this rivalry is so special. Carolina came in 10-12. The fact that they competed at the level they competed at was, to me, a shock. I thought if Carolina got beat, it was going to be ugly, meaning it was probably going to be a 15, 20-point loss. But they competed their tails off. And y'all know me, I'm not here to be all about moral victories, especially when it comes to playing Duke. I love the effort. I love the passion they played with. They played as a team. They played for the name on the front of their jerseys. In this case, it was the logo.
It wasn't there.
The front of their jerseys as opposed to what was on the back of the jersey, which means a lot. Ultimately, you fall short. This team can't. They don't know how to win games.
I mean, they've won 10, so I guess. But was I the only one that thought this game was very eerily similar to the Virginia Tech game, a game that you dominated most of the way throughout with a team that was probably the better team on the floor than you heading in? And it comes down late. Garrison Brooks can't make free throws, and they just find a way to get timely rebounding and make the shots that they needed to win the game. It felt almost exactly like that, and I just said to myself, This is the kind of year that this team is having. There's just nothing that we can do about it right now. They are stuck. Let's be honest. They're stuck in a hellish season, and they are. I'm assuming they're kind of where we're at this point. They're going to keep fighting. I don't think that they're going to finish with 10 wins. I think they'll find a way to win a few more games. They are going to be a team that's going to be extremely relieved when their season is over, because it's like you said, there have been multiple games where they have laid it all on the line, and it's just everything that can go wrong seems to go wrong, and they find ways to lose those games. So, yeah, I think, there's a lot of different things that you could take away from this. There's a lot of positives that you could take away from this as well. But at the same time, it's just all those positive things that we saw for the first 36 minutes of the game all disappeared in the final 4 minutes.
Yeah, this
and then into overtime
was very similar to. Really, you look back when you lost at home in 2012 to Duke, where you controlled the game from opening tip on, and that's what Carolina did. They did everything that I said they had to do to give themselves a chance. They had to rebound well. They did 51 rebounds in the game. I know you played 45 minutes, but you got 51 boards. That's pretty good. Their offense, a lot better. It was a lot more team-oriented. Cole Anthony looked a lot more comfortable being back in the lineup. They were getting the ball inside to Brooks and Baycott more often. Still not as much as the ball needed to go inside. But when it came time to win the game and to make the plays, they don't know how to. And it's part of them being young. It's part of them being beat up. It's a part that you've got a guy in Armando Baycott who said in the postgame, quote, scared as hell.
Worst quote that I've heard from a while coming out of the locker room. Not saying anything against Armando. I'm just saying that tells you where this team's at right now. There's no confidence in it. And honestly, I mean, I'm not going to say why should there be, but I mean, with where they're at right now, it's understandable why he feels like that.
Yeah. You've blown how many games at home this year? Every time you get a lead, you should be scared, because all you've done so far this year is blow them, implode, and become an embarrassment at times to the program. When you do what you did against Clemson, when you do what you did against Pittsburgh, where you just seemingly just turned the ball over at will in the second half. And it's frustrating in this aspect because who was on the other side of the court? If this was a loss to whoever, we're not going to be as frustrated.
We would just chalk it up as another loss. In this season. That's
in a season that will not and cannot end fast enough. But it was Duke. And you showed up ready to play. You weren't fazed by the moment. And it's very easily for a lot of guys. You got to think the only guy that has scored in this rivalry that played when the game tipped off Saturday night was Garrison Brooks.
Yep.
The other 7 players that put on that uniform and went on the court had never scored against Duke.
Had Leakey played any minute? Did he play against them in the tournament game last year in the ACC tournament, but did not score? So just 2 guys with any sort of experience against Duke. Of course, you got the walk-ons that sat there and watched the game last year. But other than that, nobody else had experience and put up as good of a fight as we probably could have hoped for.
That's where I'm gutted. That Duke's got their first win in Chapel Hill since 2016.
Very impressive stretch of 3 years there for the Tar Heels after they just had so much trouble beating the Blue Devils altogether to put together that 3-game win streak in the Smith Center.
It was evident in this game up until the last 4 minutes in the overtime session. Carolina was the more mature team in the moment. Duke's youth, especially these last couple years, has gotten to them in the rivalry because of all the hype. You look at what was on the line when they played in the Smith Center last year when Kobe White was spectacular. It was the first place on the line for Carolina. Carolina's a lot more comfortable, even though they were young in their own right. So that was the thing. And also, I'm a very critical fan of the crowd that shows up to the Smith Center.
Yes, definitely.
That was as good a Duke crowd as I can remember. They were engaged from word go. It sucks that they got the ending they got because they cheered, and they cheered hard for 45 minutes.
Well, they've done it all year. I mean, let's be honest. When we were at the Georgia Tech game, there were moments where the team's down 20, and there's fans on their feet trying to at least help will the team to something. We saw it against Clemson. This crowd this year has realized that even though this team is not good, we have to show up and we have to be louder than normal because they need some sort of environment that can help them. They need anything that can help them at this point. And I think you're right. I think the crowd on Saturday night was really good, and it just shows that, look, no matter what, there are, the Tar Heel fans that you see on Facebook and Twitter that say, I'm giving up on this team, I'm not watching, or whatever. First of all, those people never actually do that. They come back, watch the next game, and say the same thing over again. But there are still always going to be people that support this basketball program. This basketball program could literally not win a game for 3 years, and there would probably still be people in the seats because it's different with Carolina basketball. And yeah, I think, this shows it right here that when it comes to especially a game like this, they're going to show up and be loud.
Yeah, they did a fantastic job as they need to every game. But they did a really good job in this game not allowing a 10-12 record to affect how they were going to react. And so props off to them. Some guys that stood out in this game. Cole Anthony, 43 minutes, 24 points. A lot more efficient from the field with 7 of 17, 9 of 10 from the foul line. It really sucked that he was in foul trouble late in the first half and overtime. I got into an argument with my brother about his defense.
I was there for that.
And because he thinks that Roy should have put a big man underneath the basket.
Okay, he doesn't think that. He thinks that since your dad said that, that's right. Let's clear that up.
The problem was that Armando Bacot battled foul trouble. Some other guys were in foul trouble. Simply put, Cole Anthony prides himself being a complete basketball player.
Yeah.
You've got to be tougher guarding the ball. Trey Jones, that's not because you didn't have a big man to protect you. He went to your grill, pulled your jock strap off, and beat you. You've got to be tougher. I've said that all year long about this team. They're not tough enough. That's a great example. And Trey Jones, every bit of that
he's pretty good.
Every bit that he got the praise for in the preview part of this, warranted. He had his brother's moment in this rivalry. You think back to the overtime rivalry in 2015. Tyus Jones made big plays while Kennedy Meeks just continued to make bad out-of-bounds passes. And, Trey Jones, that's why he came back, because he showed up in the rivalry last year. Also, wasn't ready to go to the NBA. Wants to maybe lead his team to the national championship. Spectacular. This is after, and I think this is the biggest frustrating part when you look at how they couldn't win the game. Vernon Carey, 18 points in the first half. Doesn't score in the second half. Fouls out with over 4 minutes left to go. He's their best player. He's the most dominant player maybe in the ACC.
Yeah, he was their best player coming in for sure.
And you couldn't capitalize. You did everything else that you wanted to do up until the 4-minute mark right. You made Cassius Stanley try to beat you. You made up until that point Trey Jones try to beat you. What you found out up until Trey Jones went to Superman, they can't beat you without Carey on the floor.
Yeah.
And if you would have told me with 4 minutes to go, Carolina's got a 13-point lead in the Smith Center, and Duke's best players on the bench, I'm going to tell you, we win the game no problem.
Also, if you would have told me that this was the year that this team actually ends up losing, I probably would have said, yeah, no, that's also about right. But yeah, I think you're right. Stanley ends up fouling out. So I do want to address what you were talking about a little bit. I think there's an argument to be made as to why Cole couldn't get overly aggressive, because the other thing is okay, let's say he does foul out. The thinking is, okay, well, then you put Leaky at point guard. Well, Leaky had 4 fouls. This game, and it's on both sides, you cannot complain about the refs in this game and say that, oh, well, it was really just biased towards Duke the whole game. I mean, you can try. Carolina shot